There is a specific kind of silence that only descends when a giant is about to crush a smaller man. It is not a peaceful silence. It is heavy. It is terrifying. It is the sound of a room holding its breath, waiting for inevitable violence. In a crowded basement in Oakland, California, 20 men are watching a heavyweight champion, 200 pounds of orthodox muscle and textbook training, laugh at a man half his size. The big man is relaxed, leaning against the ropes, telling the crowd that the fight is already over before a single punch has been thrown. He believes in the geometry of his defense. He believes in the physics of his weight. But here is what the crowd doesn't see. The smaller man isn't looking at the heavyweight's fists. He is looking at the air between them. He has found a flaw in a defense system that has stood for 100 years. And in exactly 3 seconds, that flaw is going to turn a perfect champion into a helpless amateur. It is late afternoon, November 1964. We are in the bowels of the East Bay, in a gym that doesn't welcome tourists. This isn't a sanctioned match with a referee in a white shirt and judges sitting ringside with scorecards. There are no cameras here. There is no prize money. This is a closed-door challenge, the kind of event that happens in the shadows of martial arts history, where reputations are forged or destroyed in front of a handful of witnesses. The stakes here are higher than a belt. The wager is dignity. If you were standing there, the first thing hitting you wouldn't be the sight of the ring, but the smell. It is an aggressive mix of stale sweat, old leather, and the metallic tang of drying iron. The air is thick, humid, almost clinging to your skin. In the background, you usually hear the rhythmic thud-thud-thud of heavy bags being worked, but right now those sounds have died out. Everyone has stopped. The ventilation system hums a low, monotonous drone that seems to get louder as the conversation in the center ring dies out. The floorboards creak under the shifting weight of the spectators, street fighters, traditional martial artists, and boxers who speak with their knuckles. This is a place for grinders. It is not a place for philosophy, or so they think. In the center of the ring stands the Standard. He is a Golden Gloves heavyweight, built like a brick wall. He represents everything the Western boxing world believes is true in 1964. High guard, tuck your chin, jab, cross, hook. It is textbook. It is a system of geometry that has won titles since the Queensberry rules were written. He is standing there, tapping his large gloves together, grinning. To him, the man opposite him is a joke, a dancer, a theorist. The big man looks at the crowd and says, loud enough for the back row to hear, that the classic high-guard boxing stance is impenetrable. It is a fortress. He tells the smaller man to stop dancing and fight like a man. Then you look at Bruce. He is 24 years old. In this room of giants, he looks almost fragile. He is wearing a simple tank top that barely clings to his frame. He isn't bouncing on his toes. He isn't hyping himself up or scowling to feign toughness. He is just standing there, still. His hands are down by his waist, a cardinal sin in boxing. If a trainer saw you do that, you'd be running laps for a week. It looks like arrogance. It looks like suicide. But Bruce isn't being arrogant. He is being scientific. He is smiling, not out of disrespect, but because he has solved a puzzle the champion doesn't even know exists. To understand the danger of this moment, you have to understand the era. In 1964, styles did not mix. If you were a boxer, you boxed. If you did karate, you did karate. Mixing them was considered heresy. The heavyweight is convinced that his size and his perfect guard make him untouchable against a guy who weighs 135 pounds. He sees a victim, but Bruce sees a mathematical equation. Bruce isn't looking at the fist. He's calculating the angle of the boxer's shoulder. He has spent months analyzing the mechanics of the Western jab. He found a geometric blind spot, a tiny tunnel of space that opens up the moment a standard jab is thrown. When a boxer extends his arm, the shoulder rises to protect the chin. It is supposed to be a shield, but Bruce realized that for a split second, less than the blink of an eye, the rotation creates a gap, a line of entry. It is a gap that shouldn't exist. It is wide enough for a fist, but only if you move faster than human reaction time allows. The tension in the room is suffocating now. The heavy bags have stopped completely. You can hear the heavy breathing of the spectators against the quiet hum of the ventilation. The boxer steps in, confident. He is done talking. He plants his feet. You can see the muscles in his back coil through his shirt. He is loading up. He isn't throwing a scoring punch, he is throwing a finisher. He intends to take Bruce's head off. The crowd flinches before the punch is even thrown. They expect the little guy to wake up on the canvas. They are waiting for the sound of impact, the wet thud of leather hitting bone. The wager here is absolute. If Bruce gets hit, his philosophy is trash. All his talk about being like water dies right there on the dirty canvas of an Oakland basement. If the big guy lands that jab, Bruce is just another guy who talked too much and got hurt. But here is the detail everyone missed. As the heavyweight's shoulder begins to rotate, Bruce doesn't retreat. He doesn't block. He steps in. The heavyweight commits. He throws a jab that is fast, heavy, and lethal. It travels through the air with the intent to destroy. And in that fraction of a second, the world seems to slow down. The barrier between theory and reality is about to be shattered. The perfect guard is about to be tested against a speed that defies logic. The giant believes he is safe behind his fortress. He has no idea that the gate has been left wide open. And this is where the lesson begins. Not with a shout, but with a whisper of motion. The spectators lean in, eyes wide, paralyzed by the anticipation of the collision. The punch is halfway to its target. There is no turning back. The contract is signed. The collision is inevitable. And everything you think you know about power is about to be proven wrong. In the space of a heartbeat, the geometry of the fight collapses. Bruce does not move away from the danger. He moves into it. As the heavyweight's massive right arm extends, leaving his shoulder raised and his chin ostensibly protected, Bruce launches a straight lead. It isn't a power punch. It is a sniper shot. He slides into that tiny, theoretical tunnel of space he had calculated moments before. He occupies the exact coordinates the giant just vacated. The heavyweight's fist is still traveling forward, crashing into empty air, his momentum carrying him off balance. He is punching a ghost. But Bruce is solid. He is right there, inside the fortress. The climax is a freeze-frame moment that feels like it lasts for an eternity. Bruce's knuckles stop. They hover exactly 1 inch from the heavyweight's nose. The control is absolute. There is no tremble in Bruce's arm, no frantic energy. He is perfectly still, his fist parked in the center of the giant's vision, a physical manifestation of checkmate. The gym goes dead silent, the kind of silence that hurts the ears. The ventilation fan hums, oblivious to the fact that the hierarchy of the room has just been dismantled. The heavyweight freezes. His eyes go wide, crossing slightly as he stares at the knuckles threatening to shatter his face. He realizes in a wash of cold sweat that he is completely exposed. He cannot pull his arm back in time. He cannot duck. If Bruce had followed through, the big man's nose would be driven into his skull. The blind spot was real. The perfect defense was a lie. The crowd, the street fighters, the tough guys leaning against the peeling walls, they all forget to breathe. They are waiting for the snap. They are waiting for the blood. Because in this world, when you catch a man open, you make him pay. That is the rule of the basement. Then comes the part that defines the legend. The part that separates a fighter from a master. Bruce doesn't strike. He holds the position for 1 second longer, letting the reality sink in, and then he simply drops his hand. He steps back. He returns to that relaxed, fragile stance, hands by his waist. He looks at the terrified giant, whose chest is heaving with adrenaline and fear, and asks a question that cuts deeper than any punch. Do you want to know how to close that gap? He doesn't destroy the man. He gives him his dignity back. He doesn't mock the failure, he offers a solution. The heavyweight blinks. The aggression drains out of his body, replaced by something rarer in a place like this: humility. He nods. Slowly at first, then vigorously. The tension in the room breaks not with a roar of applause, but with a collective exhale. The spectators shift on their feet, looking at each other, realizing they just witnessed the death of an old way of thinking. The big man lowers his guard, not out of defeat, but out of readiness to learn. For the next 20 minutes, the fight becomes a seminar. Bruce shows him the angle. He explains the mechanics of the shoulder roll. He turns an enemy into a student. Years later, that boxer would tell people about that day in Oakland. He wouldn't talk about the speed. He wouldn't talk about the power. He would say that what changed him wasn't the fact that Bruce could have killed him. It was the mercy. It was the realization that true power isn't about how much damage you can inflict, but how much control you possess over the outcome. The blind spot Bruce Lee exploited that day wasn't just physical. It was psychological. The heavyweight believed he was safe because he was doing what everyone else did. He relied on a system he hadn't questioned. He thought his size was a shield, but the moment he stopped looking for flaws in his own armor, he became vulnerable. So, look at your own battles. We all have a high guard we rely on. Maybe it's your title at work. Maybe it's your intellect or your cynicism or your bank account. You think these things make you untouchable. You think your defense is perfect geometry. But where is the blind spot? Where are you relying on a defense that actually leaves you wide open? Usually the gap isn't in the technique. It is in the ego. It is the belief that you already know enough, that you are too big to fail. That the little guy standing opposite you doesn't have the angle. And when you finally prove you are right, when you catch someone in their error, when you win the argument, when you have the leverage to destroy a reputation or crush a competitor, what do you do with that moment? Do you snap the punch home? Do you break the nose just because you can? Or do you stop an inch away? Because the real masters don't need to draw blood to prove they won. They use that split second of dominance to teach, to build, and to turn an opponent into an ally. The question isn't whether you can find the gap. The question is, do you have the strength to show mercy when you do?